Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Lance. I've got a question for you. Have you ever felt like you know what to do to get off that extra 15 or 20, maybe even 25 pounds that you're carrying right now because you've done it before, but you just feel like every time you start going through the motions, you end up letting yourself down? Maybe it's that you get off of your nutrition plan. Maybe it's that you miss workouts. So you know what to do. You've got the plan, but for whatever reason, you just can't follow through with it. So if that's you, you're definitely in the right place. I'm going to chat with you today about a few different pieces of accountability that we use in our program that I think that really might help you. So the thing of it is that I have worked with clients who range all over the scale of their needs of accountability. For example, one of my clients, he absolutely was the quintessential high achiever. And he, in fact, I'll leave the name out of this. I know he wouldn't mind, but nevertheless, he was definitely more used to pushing so hard every time he wanted to get in shape that he would find himself either completely burning out, or he would find himself getting some sort of ailment or injury, a shoulder, elbow, some sort of, or knee at one point. Several of these areas were happening and he knew he was pushing too hard, but he was so afraid that if he didn't push that hard, he wasn't going to get results. Well, lo and behold, after pushing and pushing and pushing this hard, he ended up giving up entirely for a bit because he felt like the efforts that he was putting into the gym and into everything else just were not paying off, because he's pushing like the quintessential high achiever that has nothing else to lose and who is putting all their cards on the table to win this, and yet he's not getting the results from it. So this was one example of an individual who really didn't grasp where the level of accountability was needed. This was not an individual who needed to be pushed into making workouts. This was an individual, in fact, and he'll laugh because he'll know that this is him, but in fact, the very first call that we got on, he shared with me, Lance, I've got two goals. I've got not two goals, two gears. I've got two gears, high and off. And of course, it's no wonder I'm finding myself injured and finding myself not reaching my goals. I've got to figure something else out because it's not working. So nevertheless, after working with him for just a little bit, as you can imagine, he was the typical type of person who thought, well, if some is good, more must be better. And so it was in the beginning a challenge for him to not want to exert himself so much and so often that, because he thought if some is good, more must be better. And he wanted more results because he was just killing it. This is a person who has major drive, but yet he still needs major accountability. The reason is, if he didn't need accountability, he would have already reached his goal and been able to stay there. But because of the fact that he lacked the type of accountability that he needed to train him on how not to overtrain and not to abuse his body so that he could stick with it long term, like I do, like Lauren does, like our clients learn to do, this here is what would allow him to continue to sustain, but the way that he was doing it was not working. So fast forward after working with him for a little bit, and again, one of the biggest things that we noticed started happening is if he had to miss a workout, he wasn't beating himself up, but more than anything, we started correcting his shoulder issues. We got him more ripped than he had ever been. In fact, it was he felt like it was more closer to where he was whenever he played college soccer. And so the thing of it is that all of a sudden, because of the right level of accountability, instead of a coach going, yeah, go, 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 and pushing him further, I would slow him down. Hey, man, you're doing awesome. You've been sick or you've been gone. It's probably good to spend time with the family. It's probably good to do this, that, or the other. We would slow him down. And the reason is because that allowed him to start taking a breath and learning, oh, wait, I'm getting fit working out 4 or 5 days a week instead of 6 or 7. I'm getting fit working out 45 minutes a day or less instead of 2 hours and getting injured. So all we did was created that accountability while he was learning. I don't have to go to such extreme lengths. In fact, one of the things that he always said is, I don't work as hard as I used to, and yet I'm fitter than I've ever been. So if you can relate to this, if you are that sort of high achiever, then this is what we do in our program. We actually provide a level of accountability that isn't an extreme force that's going to push you. It's going to be one that's going to dial you back, because here's the problem. If you're used to burning yourself out, getting injured, or just simply being overwhelmed or spread too thin because you're pushing too much too soon, you're never going to be able to stick with the process long enough to see the results. So it doesn't matter how hard you push, you're doing the wrong things. So this is example one. The second one is that I used to have a client who would give up any time that she felt that she wasn't seeing results enough, meaning that it's not fast enough, because she unfortunately fell prey to the whole Biggest Loser syndrome, which is she would watch that show and then see people, dropping 20 to 30 pounds in a month and think that that was okay, and not really understand that these individuals, first of all, were not able to keep off the weight. Second of all, they had EMTs sitting by on the regular. And on top of that, I have worked with trainers who did work on the show, and the mistreatment is absolutely horrible. But more than anything, this is not real life. That's not how it happens. And so what would happen is, this person, anytime that she felt that the results weren't coming quick enough, then she would want to feel like she was ready to give up. But in the past, she had a coach who was constantly pushing her so much that she felt overwhelmed at times, or felt misunderstood whenever she missed the mark due to other life issues and stressors that the coach didn't understand. So this is an area where this person needed a level of accountability to keep her going when she felt like she wasn't seeing results. And she needed to be reminded that what she's doing is working and that it's going in the right direction, and this is the long-term solution. But she also required a little bit more of something else that other coaches kept missing the mark with her on, and that is empathy. So one of the biggest factors, or one of the biggest variables in being able to be accountable to something, is human emotion. Guys, you are going to go through days that feel like you're absolutely the bug who got splattered across a windshield. And other days you're going to feel like you're the windshield who's just mopping up bugs left and right. But the fact is that when you have these days, whether it's someone died, a pet died, or you got bad news at work, or there's a financial struggle, or it's just simply the fact that you look in the mirror and you struggled with what you saw that day, and it put you in an emotional position that your old patterns used to be that you would reach for food when you felt like this. This is not where you need to be pushed excruciatingly. This is where you need accountability to remind you of what you've done, what you've accomplished, who you are, and how important you are, and the fact that what was said was not true. Meaning, in the past, the things that caused you to feel this way, they're not true, and that's why we work on the mindset. And what happens is, we don't just work on accountability in a level of, you gotta go, 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 and push, push, push. Instead, this is more of an ebb and flow, in which case we're looking at each person to determine, do they need to push a little bit more so that they don't fizzle out, and so that they get the results, or do we need to kind of encourage them to take some self-care and to actually scale back a little bit so they don't burn out? That's the difference on levels of accountability, rather than just simply pushing people into doing more just because you're a coach. The final thing is that for me, I specifically would go through, whenever I would work with coaches. Now, I would work with business coaches and different coaches of, you name it, I've worked with different coaches. So this is not only pertaining to fitness, but my issue is that I went through certain areas of my life in which case I would struggle, and then it would lead to emotional eating, or it would lead to feelings of defeat. And if I had a coach that was more hard-nosed, that was more push, 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 instead of kind of understanding that I'm going through something, I would end up feeling more disconnected with that person and feel like, almost like, well, here I go again. I can't, I'm doing the self-sabotage thing again. There's no point. And this is what happened. So the fact is that what we've discovered out of 16 years of doing this professionally is that people do need accountability. But what we've noticed is that in accountability within fitness, business, whatever, there are two types of coaches. Usually we see that most coaches will create little prison cells that prevent you from quitting, giving up on yourself, and you might succeed, but you're going to be miserable through doing it. This is the prison cell form, or the handcuff form of accountability. Meaning, if I got to drag your butt across that finish line, you're going to finish. That's not the method that I prefer. The method that we prefer is more or less, instead of focusing on 8 prison cells or handcuffs to drag your butt across the finish line, we're going to use safety nets. And those safety nets are just simply because of the fact that you are going to have moments in which case you're on the metaphorical or figurative high beam and you fall. You lose your step because you have not done this long enough to actually make it a pattern that's lifelong. So you fall, you goof up, you mess up on your diet that day. And again, I use the phrase diet loosely, but you mess up on your macros or your nutrition. We have a safety net that's going to prevent you from going, oh, I suck, I'm going back to this. And it's going to prevent you from going backwards into old patterns. Likewise, we have safety nets that are going to prevent you from not working out the minimums that will get you results. We use our good, great, and awesome goal system in order to hold people accountable to a minimum, but also prevents them from getting overzealous and going to the extreme where we burn out. Guys, we use between 8 to 10 safety nets in our program to make sure that people softly get to where they want to go. And I mean softly, meaning that, let me say this, not softly, but we're going to say empathetically get where they want to go. Meaning that we're going to push them and we're going to be their cheerleaders, but we're not going to be whip crackers behind people, because the reality is you most likely have kids, you have a career or a business, you have real emotions, and getting fit should not be the center of your life. It should merely amplify the quality of all aspects of your life. This is why we want to create safety nets for accountability and not handcuffs or chains to create more bondage. Our goal in our program is not only to get you fit, but because this is a life coaching program that has a fitness nucleus, we want to get you fit and actually help you even get more in alignment with your relationships, your career, your journey on your own as far as self-discovery, whether that's who am I, what do I want to do, what's my purpose, and kind of understanding what brings you fulfillment. These are the things that our program, Master Your Body Confidence University, does focus on and do. So nevertheless, guys, I wanted to give you these aspects of why accountability should look different than what you've most likely seen. And I really hope that this stands out and resonates. There is a right way to do this for people, for some people. The fact is that you might be like me, in which case having a whip crack behind you to get moving does not motivate or inspire you. It actually fizzles you out and feels destructive. And so the fact is that if you're one of those people, whether you are like the first client I talked about, in which case you need to be held back from burning yourself out, or you're like the second client, in which case you do need to be encouraged to keep going whenever you're feeling defeated, but you need empathy in doing it, send us a direct message. Let's chat a little bit and see if and how we can help you. Let's see if there's a fit here. So, but nevertheless, guys, if you feel like this was something that resonates, let me know which part of this did in the comments below. Let me know which type of person. Are you like me, that you need that empathetic push and drive? Or are you more like the first client I talked about, in which case you're so used to going so hard that within 2 to 3, maybe even 5 weeks, you crash and burn because you're going too much and you don't really know what that balance looks like. So nevertheless, guys, thanks so much for watching. I really hope that this helps and resonated. Be sure to look for the next video. And again, if you feel like anything was helpful, be sure to comment #value in the comments below.